We are live. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. And hello to you, Joshua and Michelle.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on the Vaxxed Bus. So, you have a story that goes back a few years regarding vaccinations. Do you want to start at the beginning and tell us what what happened?
Yeah, so my our sort of story is about Josh. So I have four children. Josh is my second oldest. They range from 9 to nearly 21. Um, and we noticed with Josh, he was sort of progressing differently to our eldest son. Sort of wasn't meeting different targets he should be meeting, and we weren't sort of sure why. We took him to lots of different doctors and different baby care centres to have him sort of tested or diagnosed. We didn't even know what for. This is probably maybe about 11 years ago now. So it was at 5 or 6, and actually even before then, when he was in preschool, our preschool would say, the preschool director said to us, something's not right. There's something not right with Josh. I suggest you take him to a paediatrician, or we didn't really know what that meant at that time. Like 11 years ago, there wasn't much information about anything. So we finally got him diagnosed, and he was diagnosed with autism. So, which we didn't, I sort of knew there was Asperger's and autism, and I'm like, I didn't want autism because that's all I knew was Rain Man. I'm sure that's it. That didn't make any sense to me. So we were heartbroken. And like I said, he struggled with language skills. He was very quiet. And just very different to our son. Something just wasn't right to our eldest son. So we got the diagnosis, and we went to a paediatrician, which was a final step in the diagnosis. And we were told there's nothing you can do. Joshua won't socialise. He won't have friends. He won't really be able to show love or care for people. He won't do well at school.
Won't understand other people's emotions.
What? Yeah, won't
Facial
understand.
expressions.
Yep, won't understand facial expression, other people's emotions. What else? There's this whole laundry list of things that he's not going to do. And there's nothing you can do for him. So all you can do, they gave him a prescription for antipsychotic medication and said, this is what he needs to take. And I was like, okay, and how often? They said 3 times a day. I said, oh, for how long? They said the rest of his life. And I was like, I don't know. He was 6. By the time we got the final diagnosis, because it took us several years, that was it, and that was all we're left with. And we're like, I don't understand that. Surely that's not it. And this was, like I said, 11 years ago, so there wasn't a lot of information. I didn't really know what to even look for. That was just what you meant to do. And so I think I got the prescription filled, and it sat there, and something in me was like, I can't be right. That doesn't make sense. So we decided not to. My hubby and I, Rowan, decided not to go down that path.
Smart mum.
Just no, which was very contradictory to what I sort of had always been, just do what you're told, sort of thing, doctors and that. So we made a decision not to do that, because we thought if that's the diagnosis of what they've planned for him and that's what they're going to give him, we're going to say no to that, to those results, and we're going to try and find other ways. So we did, and we went down I think we call it natural route. We just went down the route of not using medication. So we changed diets. We cleaned up the diet a lot. We did that. That sort of helped. He changed schools to an Aspect school, so he got to an Aspect class.
What's that mean?
So that was Aspect, a great organisation here in Sydney, or on the Central Coast. I think they're also in Sydney. And he was in a satellite class, so in a mainstream school, but in a class with 2 teachers and 6 children. And he did that for 2 years. And his teachers were beautiful, and they just made all the difference in the world. The care he got, the social stories they always did, the things on the walls to explain things, it honestly was a saving grace. I think one
Absolutely.
of the things wasn't it, honey? Like, it was hard to leave our school, our little Catholic school was very hard, but we did, and it was worth the 2 years before he then came back to mainstream, which is our goal. We want mainstream. I said, we were like, he needs to live in this world. There's no point, raising him in a way that he can't function. We want him to be a fully functioning, adult, going out there and making a difference in the world and enjoying life. So, but at school we sort of found that there was things that he was very good at school, and I was like, I don't understand, because at home he just seemed to be a bit chaotic. And I remember there were times like where I'd say to him, we're going to go to like Coles and then Aldi, and I'd go to Aldi first, and he'd go nuts because I did the wrong order. Or the mums would meet me at school and say, oh, we're going to go for a coffee at Macca's, and I'd go, oh, that'd be great. And I'd go, and he wouldn't get out of the car. I'm like, what kid doesn't want to get out of the car at Macca's? But he's like, no, you said we're going to go home. So I'm like, just go get out of the car. I just want one coffee with friends. Nope, you didn't say we're going to do this. And I was like, this is McDonald's. Like, I don't understand. So they were little things that they were just sort of goes to show the sort of space, I guess, that he was in. And even some of the things I remember in class when the teachers would say, I remember one of the things when they would cut things out in a classroom and papers, and they would say, hand the kids the paperclip and say, now put a paperclip on it. So the kids would get their piles and put a paperclip. Josh put his paper on the thing and put the paperclip on top of it. And that was his thing. And the teacher's like, something, he's trying, but it's just things aren't connecting. So then the 2 years aspect made a big difference. Then he came back to mainstream school and really started to flourish. When he came back, they're like, what has happened? He's just not the same.
Like,
good.
Yeah, that's really good. So it was a combination of the education, the diet. You said you were doing supplements, did
diet.
you?
So we did. So diet was probably number one. We cleaned up the diet, and you remember that?
The whole family was a bit interested and just like, what? Why? Because
I was the worst mum in the world. No, mother would do this. You're the worst mum in the world. What mum does this to their kids?
So we were like, no colours, no additives,
no preservatives, no chemicals.
All the fun foods, so like lots of chocolate, tiny teddies, cordial,
oh, I
all
cringe
that
now.
stuff.
I cringe. What were you saying?
That's just normal. No, none of that.
No, I did a clean out. I spent 8 hours cleaning out fridge, freezer and pantry when I got this little, it's Chemical Maze it was called. It had all the numbers and the things.
That's a great book.
Yeah, I loved it. Now I've got the app still, and I say to the kids, well, you check the app, and if you get the side effects from those, it's up to you now. But so I did, and I stripped it, and there was like 80% of my pantry gone. I was like, oh no. And I had a gumball machine in the house, and we had, I know, and we had boxes of Coke and Diet Coke and Fanta for weekends, and I thought, this is, like, I love my child, and I love them, right, so I'm giving them this nice food, and I look back now, I think, I know, I was like slowly poisoning them. So that was it. Right, we're doing a whole month with nothing with chemicals or numbers or anything, and the kids, I have 4 kids, and the kids were not happy. To say the least.
Mutiny.
It was, I was surprised. It's the worst month of our life. I'm like, well, it's okay. And everything became, because I did lots of jars and packets. Then we started cooking and baking. I've just gotten in a habit, I guess. I've been working full-time in Sydney and commuted a lot. So it was just packets and jars.
Just what was easy, it made sense.
Yeah.
That's right.
I had no idea.
You remember all this?
Some parts. Like, I remember a majority of stuff from I'd say maybe year 2 below is a bit iffy, just because I'm 17 now, so quite a little while ago. But just like events and stuff of like mum cleaning out the pantry and thinking
Traumatized.
I know, right? Sorry for that one, no?
some just little, what seemed like big things then, but now I look back and I'm like, thank God we did it.
Yeah.
Because now I can just go out to the real world, and people don't look at me and go, oh, he's got something wrong with him. Like, I was at year 7 camp, and everyone has like the role of your core class, so like the couple classes you have together, and next to your name, you have like a little hat if you have some sort of special needs thing, whether that be autism, ADD, even if it's something simple like colorblind or something similar like that. That's just slightly different that you may need help with. So a couple of kids, like I said, one kid had colorblind, one kid was colorblind, so he had one, and then one was next to me, and everyone was like, oh, why do you have it, Gower, as I was called, Josh? And I'm like, oh yeah, because I have autism. They're like, what? All of them were sort of surprised because none of them could tell.
And we made the decision not to tell the school. We told the school, but we didn't tell individual teachers, because we found that when you tell people, there's a bit of a thing, they don't expect as much. So, if you're sort of like this, oh, okay, oh, well, look, this is what the kids would normally do. But because for Josh, and we're like, no, we actually want him to do as well as he can. So I remember once the maths teacher was, like, oh, look, most of the kids can concentrate on mathematics for 45 minutes. Josh is about 30. I was like, man, if you knew him before, 30 minutes on a subject he doesn't love is actually really good. So I was like, okay, I'm good with that. Like, I'm good with that sort of thing. But we were very caught to using it as a reason or excuse, and then just not. And most of the time we chose not to.
Right.
Not to. That was our choice. We just chose to not really
tell.
Yeah, and sometimes we did, it was sort of a pick or choose which way we're going to go with things.
And Josh, do you remember what it was like before this, when you know,
Before
were
the
in that?
cleanse?
Yes.
The
The
cleanse.
cleanse.
You can see the big significant part that he keeps coming back to,
Oh,
can't
no,
you?
no, the turnover point, I guess.
The way you said that, the cleanse, I just saw it on a calendar, like, the year of the cleanse.
Well, what do I remember? I guess I remember just being. How can I word this? So I was just a lot more. What was it actually? I'm actually genuinely trying to think. I think I was just more confused about a lot of things and more emotional in a negative way. Like I was a lot more angry and sad, and I got annoyed over a lot of things a lot easier.
Right.
And if something annoyed me, I would just straight up be saying it. It was just no. There was.
Yeah.
I would just
You
scream at the top of my
reacted.
head.
Yeah.
If I didn't like a person and I didn't want to get in the car, I'd be like, nah, I'm not getting in the car with
Yes.
Stacey or whomever.
One of the mums messaged me, "Oh, Shell, can you pick up my daughter? Like, I'm just stuck at work." I'm like, "Yeah, Shell." And then he goes, "I'm not getting in the car with her." And this is in the school car park. I'm like, "Get in the car, Josh, get in the car." "No, I'm not getting. I'm like, oh, please, God, please, just get in the car. Like, just help. It was just that. Please, I just right now, I don't want all this attention sort of on me. We'll deal with this when we get in the car. So
Yeah.
that was some of the things that I remember dealing with at the time. It was just that sort of that aggro and that, lack of awareness of what's going on, and
Yes.
over emotional, I'm going to leave home and I wish I lived with someone else, and just all this stuff. It's like, where does this sort of come from? The lack of self-regulation and negative thoughts and things like that.
And where did it come from? Do you think that Josh's autism came from vaccines?
Yeah, I do. I really do. But I think it was a combination of a lot of things, and it was just like
A lot of different variables.
Yeah, this perfect storm of, we were feeding feeding not very, like his food wasn't great, so he was sort of inundated with the chemicals and toxins in there. There's a lot of screen time. I was then sort of started working for myself a bit, so I put him in front of the computer a lot, hours upon hours, and even the doctor said, "Oh, but he's happy, he's quiet, so it doesn't matter." And I believed that. Oh, okay, 6 hours is fine. I look back now, I don't know why I didn't think these things through, but I was like, well, that's what someone said, right? Doctor said it's fine.
Yeah.
So I think it was, definitely the vaccines and that's because I sort of noticed it more after his 3-year ones as well. And it's sort of progressive, and I never clicked that was it.
Were there obvious reactions to vaccination, or was it just a sort of, as you said, a progression?
Nothing. It wasn't like a very big regression. He just stopped to develop, like after the sort of 3 years ones, the language and that just didn't sort of happen, and the understanding skills didn't sort of happen. I remember we took a speech therapy, and she said to Josh, "Pick up the little giraffe and the big tiger, and put the little giraffe behind the big tiger, and you sort of get the giraffe and tiger." And I meant to do something with that, but I don't, and by that time he was already at school, so you think that sort of. He'd been going for a couple of years, so those sorts of things should have picked up.
One step at a time person.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, very much so. So we always had the chart up on the wall, what you have to wear to school. Here's a picture of his t-shirt, picture of his shorts, picture of his undies, picture of socks, everything, to make it very clear what he had to. And that was, I remember that one thing I had a chart, and it had his school uniform and which day was the sport and the pictures. So Monday, this is the photos, pictures, and this. And I just used the same pair of underwear for each day. And there was a day where there was not that colour undies to wear. And I'm like, "Oh no, you don't have to wear that colour undies, but it says this colour." I'm like, "No, just a pair." It was just this, I was like, wow.
Very literal.
Yes. It's like, no, I don't really care. But it was those sorts of little things that you just weren't quite normal. And yes, it was sort of progressive, and things that just weren't. We wasn't just moving forward. He sort of stopped at that stage.
Yeah.
So, and we kept vaccinating, the same with our other children. But we'd started to change things with them as well. So.
And when did you decide to stop vaccinating? I'm assuming you did.
Yes. So our 9-year-old, our youngest is 9, and his last ones were at 6 months. So 8.5 years.
Right.
Was
right.
was when we just went, no, that's it anymore. And he's probably the most robust, most healthy of all 4 of them. He just can't keep him down. I don't. He just doesn't get sick, and if he does, he's over in a couple of hours, sorts of things. Wakes up with sniffles, and it's gone in the afternoon.
Yeah.
He's just so healthy.
So you can see that difference. It's
Yes.
funny because when you have a family with 4 children or 5 children, and you vaccinate some a lot, and you vaccinate others not at all or a little, you can really compare the difference. And to me, that's like proof positive.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I do know. I can look at them, and I mean, there's 12 years difference. So my eldest is 21 in a few weeks, and our youngest is 9. And even just looking at the number of vaccines they had, like when my eldest was born, chickenpox vaccine didn't exist, and now it's like you're going to die if you don't have it. I'm like, what? Like it's so I've been able to see the changes, like because I've got the kids at the different age brackets. So, and that was one of the things as well. It's like, you know, when the year 7 came to year 7 and Gardasil and that was coming, it's like you're not having that.
Just have a day off, cool.
You're staying home. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue.
You're not going to school today. It's not necessary. So we've made that conscious decision after going the other way, and that was a hard change to realise that you're making a stance completely opposite to what you've always thought, and which goes against how you've parented for so long.
Yeah.
It's and then you've got it's a battle, you know, and it's hard, but we don't regret it. And so now we sort of can look back at this list of what Josh will never achieve. We were told he won't, right? And now it's like he's got great friends. You know, he's one of the Year 12 prefects this year.
Wow.
Aren't you? You've got the teachers adore him. He's got mates. He's got a job that he absolutely loves, working with kids. He does like more than 100 hours of community service every year with his school. And it's just like, this is what you told us to expect. This is what he has in his life now. Like, I just look at that and I just think, how many other parents go, well, we're never going to, they're never going to, don't bother trying, you know. And I look back and just think, man, where would it have been, where would he be, where would Joshy be if we had have gone, okay, that's
how
it.
terrible to limit someone by those low expectations.
I know.
Josh, do you think you are autistic still?
Absolutely not.
No, I wouldn't think so either. You're articulate, you're intelligent, it's obvious, you're very friendly.
Thank you.
But no worries. And good on you, Mum. You know, you've got a great mother who really and truly took the reins there. You know what would be really interesting? To go back to that doctor with Josh today.
I've thought about that. I've actually thought of knocking on the door and saying, that boy you don't know, it's like that, just do you want to come meet him? But I just can't. Because I think that the doctors make the decision with the information they have and what they've been taught. So I've had many times of, you know what, if I had listened to him and I get angry, and then it's like, some of them, they don't know. There's not enough information out there. They don't want to know. You know, I know people have used the same pediatrician is good. So I sort of just try to, you know, offer that grace of, well, he just probably didn't know. And that's the thing as well, like, if they don't have their own child and they haven't had to fight that battle themselves, they just got to go with the information they've been given. But that's where now we're very big on researching, and I said to kids, don't even trust me, you look, research. Don't know, like, just go figure it out for yourself and then come back and have conversations, but don't just believe what I tell you.
Better to question everything than blindly accept everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is one of the smartest and, I guess, healthiest things you can do in life, is to always be questioning, always be learning.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that really concerns me about the medical profession, is they have lost their sense of curiosity.
Yeah.
Medicine and science used to be about, I studied science and I loved it. It was exploration. It was always something new to learn.
Yep.
And now it's like, well, this is what we learned. We're never going to try to learn anything else. This is the truth. This is it. Science is settled.
Science is settled. I hear that all the time, like, since when? And in what other areas science settled? Because aren't we always saying we're trying to break through and we're researching? It's like, okay, well, why is this settled? You know? And that's the thing. It's like, you do have to have that curiosity. And I didn't have it, and it was... but then in saying that, when my eldest was... When I first had him, I remember taking him to the baby clinic, and I didn't want to have his vaccines. Something within me I was only crying, and I'm like, something's wrong. This is so wrong. It feels so wrong. I was only 23 when I had him, so I was still, hadn't really, very new to parenting. I just sort of, you know, and I remember the baby nurse saying, but you don't want your son to die. Like, he'll die if he doesn't have it. And I was like, I want my son to die. And I ended up saying to my husband, I can't do this. You actually need to take him. I cannot go. It just feels so wrong. But I still didn't even realise then. Like, I didn't realise then what that something feels wrong means. It means don't do it.
Yeah.
But at the time, and that's what I said, like, I can look back now and it's like God was putting in my heart, don't do this. It's wrong. But I was like, someone said, you know, your child will die. And, you know, if you're a good mum, you'll do this. And I'm like, well, I want to be a good mum. So I did this, right? I did what good mums do.
And didn't listen to that inner voice.
I didn't listen to it.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that at least 80% of the parents who come in here talk about that inner voice, that thing telling them don't do it. And they don't listen to it because they're told it's not scientific, it's just superstitious, and it doesn't mean anything. But I think it means everything. Yeah.
It does. Now I say, and I'm saying to my kids, if something's telling you to do something and even it's against what I say, I actually have to tell you to go with that because you have to trust that, you know, because I could actually be wrong. And that's the thing I think. And I also didn't have any data. There was no, okay, why would it feel wrong? I had nothing to link that to. I'd never heard anything about it. I'd never been told there's an option. So it made no sense to me. There was like, it must be me. I must be something wrong with me I don't know. Or I'm younger, I'm 23, so what would I know? These are nurses, these are doctors.
They have many years to practice and profess themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So they know more.
Yeah.
So it's but yeah, now I've got a lot more confidence, and I guess I'm a lot more years on, 21 years later, and extra kids. It's like, no, that's good. I'm good with the decisions and researching, and yeah, Josh is just sort of that. I look at him and I just go, goodness me, like if we could go back, and and even just go back and just say it will be okay. Like, it will be okay. Like, it's really hard now and you're crying and you're embarrassed and, and there's just days where you don't want to get out of bed. And there's days where you think, oh my goodness, is this it for him? Is this it for us? And if someone had said, look, here's a snapshot of you in 10 or 12 years, I would have gone, oh my goodness, that's actually not going to be that way.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. And when someone says to you, a 6-year-old won't ever get married, I won't get married and have kids and you start, so everything, no school, no friends, no emotion, won't show love. You just start going, I don't understand. How do you live a life like that? So yeah, if that's one thing I thought, if parents know that just because this is what you're told doesn't actually make it true.
That's right. And you can't lose hope. This is another thing that a lot of people are telling us. Just hope.
Yeah.
And look to that goal and look.
Yes, I know.
Look what you guys have achieved. It is a miracle, but it's been hard work, I'm sure.
It has been hard work, but it's just that day at a time. And as each new piece of information comes, here's a school, let's go look into that school. Let's, and I remember a friend saying, our doctor said, don't look at the aspect school, it's not worthy. I'm like, I don't understand. Why are you taking education information? Like, go and just look, But that's the thing. We're just told, don't look, don't research. There's nothing you can do. So we would go, okay, here's an opportunity. We'll go and listen. And we were told, you've got really no chance. People have been on waiting lists for years. So I say that, God has given us gifts on the way. And I didn't even know I was fumbling, we were fumbling the way, just this path and this path. And, but we were sort of adamant to the goal of, we want him at 18 to be confident, strong, healthy adult with friends and out there ready to take on the world sort of thing. That was our vision for
I think you beat the goal. You were a year early at least.
Yeah, it's 18 next year. So, what about you? You're sort of happy with everything. Like you said, it was hard. It was hard for Josh. Changing the schools was hard. Leaving his friends behind. And I would go to the school and I'd go, "Oh, Mrs. Gower, how's Josh? We miss him." And I'd cry like, "I know. I don't want him to be not at this school. This is our school, but we got to do what we've got to do, right? Because that's a long term." It's a marathon.
Then in doing so, it also opened up more relationships to work upon. And now people, because what would happen I'd be in the class of 6 during normal class, but then when we went to the library, or I think we had Japanese class and music class, I'd merge with the mainstream class, which is like for normal classes. And then through those classes, and then like recess and lunch, I got to know the other students. And then now, for the students that went to that school, that went to where I go now, St. Eddie's.
To high school, yeah.
I've known them since then, now in year 7 and up to now. It's opened up a lot more relationships.
Yeah, so you've got friends from different schools now.
So you're in a good place now, Josh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love success stories.
Yes.
I just love this because there are people watching this who are probably in that space you were in when the doctor said to you, just give up hope. It's never going to get better.
And they take it so quickly. It can be taken from you so quickly. It's like, what? Like in half an hour, you just wiped out my son's whole life. I don't understand that. And, it's that sort of, I don't know, like that doesn't make sense. How can that be? you know. And that's the thing, you don't know. No one actually knows the future. Like no one can say that. And you hear at time people that can't walk and they can suddenly walk or whatever. So it's like, but the fact they can, and we give that over. Oh, okay, then it's like, no, you know, take the authority back as a parent and go, no, you know what, that's not okay. That doesn't sit us. And we would find that as well. There's a lot of excuses made. And we would go, no, you know, like, oh, well, that's how kids with autism, they express themselves by yelling and doing that. I'm like, but that doesn't work in a house. We actually just don't, you know, we don't allow that. So we need to just say no. So we had to find other ways
completely
to help.
When people say, oh, no, his brain works differently.
His brain works differently, so you can't expect him to...
You can fix it. It's not always...
Yeah, you know, there's lots of things we've had to go against, I guess, the general sort of consensus of how you should do things. So,
and that's how you gained that confidence that
yes.
you knew you were doing the right thing.
Yes, we saw the you know, the fruits of your labour. Like we said, this is what's happening.
You see the change.
Yeah, and people would say it would go to family functions, and people were like, what's happened? Like same thing. Like something's happened. He's different. He asked me how I was, you know. And I remember my niece saying to us, he asked me how uni was. Like I left uni a year ago, but she said, but he asked me. He used to only ever talk about himself. He never, you know, I'm like, I know, right? And then I've actually got photos. I wish I had them. And you see him at school, because we've got all their school photos lined up in a row from kindy to early school. And there's one of him, you still see it, it's just that blind, that see-through, you know, that's look through you. Yeah. And and he's just sort of very drawn and like this. And then you have another one. And then there's one and he's just glowing and he's tanned and his eyes are sparkling. I'm like, that's the year we got our son back. That year, and I can pinpoint, I go, that year is when we got Josh back. Oh. Yeah. And it wasn't until I visually put up and went, oh my goodness, it's because you don't see it day by day.
Right.
It's not to look back and go, there's been no meltdowns today. There's been no meltdowns for a week. And then there's been no meltdowns for a few months. And then suddenly it's like, we just don't even have meltdowns. So
what's a meltdown?
Yeah. So yeah, we've got visual photos as well to show. It's just very significant. So
that's fantastic. That is just so great. I'm loving this. It's so good to have a happy ending on a story like this.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you guys would like to add that we haven't covered yet?
I think I've spoken a lot. About you, honey? Is there anything else?
I can't really think of anything. Just there is always another way, I guess. Even if it looks like there's one option, keep on searching. There's another path.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, you think sometimes we just don't look for options. We just go, this is what we're being told, or this is it. It's like, well, what else is out there? That you have options. You know, you have choices. Whereas I think we lose that. It's like, and I see that with so many parents now. I can't get to see this doctor for 4 weeks or this one for 3 months, and this is what's happening. It's like, you have options. What else? Don't just rely on that one thing. What else can you do? You know, where can you look? Who can you speak to? What can you research? Like, don't just, it's this sort of, you get frozen.
Yeah, think outside the box.
Yeah, because you think that person knows everything, and so I just default to that person. It's like, options is huge, and you have that right as a parent to go find options.
Absolutely.
And to say no to this and yes to this, and we want different, and that doesn't work for us, that doesn't work for our family, you know. And every family is different. Everyone's got to find, I think, their way to make it work for them. So
those other kids that you went to school with, the ones in the aspect classes, how have they progressed? Have they?
Good question.
I thought it was.
Yeah, thank you. There's only really one that I know of that has, like, there's only one Charlie. I don't know if I should be saying his name, but just 'cause it's not us, but he's the only one I've been able to stay in contact with.
Yeah, we're friends with.
Just because, as well as it being 6 students, it'd be from like years 3 to year 3 to 5,
right?
Or like 4 to 6 or whatever.
So they weren't all in the same year.
Yeah.
In the class, 6 kids ranging over 3 years.
Kids in my year, including myself, so 2 others, and only one I've been able to stay in contact with somewhat. That's just because you're friends with the mum.
I made friends with the mum.
Yeah.
You know, as you do. Yeah.
And did they do the cleanse also?
They're very good as well. She's way better than me. So she's yeah, she's the same. She started saying no. We just want to look for other ways.
So I think, would it be fair to say that he was a bit higher on the spectrum compared to myself?
Yeah, possibly. Charlie had more challenges.
Yeah.
So, but I think he's the prefect of Year 12 now at his school.
There you go.
So he's great. And I think he's got his pilot license or something as well. So
Wow.
something like that. He's like thriving. So, but that was the actual thing, was that you were part of a study with Macquarie Uni. They did a study on Josh for 6 years with other students with Aspect and that, and to monitor. And every term we'd spend like an hour or something on the phone with one of the ladies running it. And she would notice, because there was a scale and you had to answer 0 to 2 based on how often they would do this, how often, and it was always like 2. Does he, say he wants to leave home? 2, which meant always, or all these sorts of things. And I would say, I feel like such a bad mum. I feel like I'm throwing my son under the bus saying how bad he is. Does he fight with his siblings? 2 meaning yes, a lot more than normal. And then by the time we got to the end of the study, after however many years, it was like 0, 0, 0, 0. And I remember saying to her, like, do you hear my answer? She's like, yes. And she was surprised. She said, you know what, there's no other child in this program that's done what he's done. There's no one else. She said, he's by far. But the answers were all very yes, no, or rated. And she said, I don't know why. Yeah. And she said,
explain it a bit more.
yeah, but there was always that part for comments under it. So I would say, this is what we're doing. Because it never asked, what are you doing outside of this to help? So I would always say to her, Leah, like, I want to tell you now what we're doing. So she would put that in the comments, and she said, we don't know why. And I said, that's because you're not using the information that I'm giving you. We're getting him into sport. We're changing the diet. All these things that weren't included in it. But I kept saying to him, this is really important. We've noticed, because one of the teachers in Aspect said, get him into the sport. The kids that do sport do a whole lot better. I was like, I didn't know that.
Then
so we went through
a bunch of different ones.
tennis,
soccer.
Soccer was
bowling.
overwhelming. 10-pin bowling, you loved. That was his thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then parkour. So, they run round and all that. Parkour, where they run off sides of walls and stuff. Trampolining. So, but that was sort of little hints. And that's what I say to them. We've got him into sport. We've cleaned up the diet. Screen time's all but gone. That caused meltdowns in the house. But that was, so gaming went from every afternoon to Friday nights and after midday on a Saturday. That was it for any screen time sort of thing. So I would say to her, you need to know this information, because, it's actually, that's what plays a part in what
Also,
he's changing.
I just remembered, just like my lack of allowance of food, like how I just did not want
the typical sort of yellow diet, it's the nuggets, the hot chips, or the boiled rice. Like, that's pretty much what he ate.
didn't really like many foods.
No, now he makes his own pesto sauce, he bakes, he cooks dinner once a week with his little brother, and they do like twice a week. At the moment they're doing twice a week because I'm studying, so I'm running out of time. You're right, twice. So they do everything from scratch. So, I'm going to butter chicken, like, Mum, all from scratch, or whatever it is. And it's like, this is the boy that would just have boiled rice, and we'd have to try and hide some things in it. You do the hiding of
Even when we
food.
went to Macca's, it would either be like chips and nuggets, but if I wanted a burger, it'd just be the bun, the meat, and then that's it. And then I think after like a couple of years, I got cheese with it, because I was like, I like cheese. That's fine.
So that was a battle as well. It's hiding, sneaking foods in, and some food sort of supplements, and just to get those nutrients. That was as well. There was no nutrients, so when he was having these cocktails of food and vaccines, and even the skincare and everything we used, there was no nutrients going in, because it was nuggets, chips, Vegemite on toast, things like that. So, and now it's pretty much. And then we went through just try everything 3 times, just 3 mouthfuls, because the first time you're going to hate it. It's a given, right? Because it's something Mum's making you try and eat. Second time you might be bearable. Third time you might, you'll actually take the time to taste it. So that was this. And
was it hard convincing Josh to actually go for that third bite?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes the first bite, I'd just like, no.
Yep.
All right. Well, you tried it at least.
Yeah. And then it was slowly, then bit by bit, I'd hide things when we were making zucchini slice and saying it's a cheese slice, because I'd grate the zucchini so it wouldn't look green. It's a cheese slice, and I wasn't lying because it had cheese in it. Always had to make sure I didn't lie, so I'd beat around the bush. Yeah. So and now it's pretty much anything goes.
That story you told about the Macquarie study, was it Macquarie?
Yeah, Macquarie University.
Yeah, that's so frustrating to me, because what is the point of doing a study if you're not actually even going to look at why someone like Josh excelled?
Thrives, yeah.
The whole idea to me of doing a study is to find out what's going to work.
Yes.
And
I think this one was to compare Aspect School with a school in South Australia, I believe, offering a similar program. So it was really around the educational, like the learning
More
sort of
so
criteria.
analytics rather than answers.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, it was a lot of data, like, you know, figures and that. So, but for them to get a much clearer picture, and I did say the school have a lot to do with it. I still, like, his teachers are excellent, like, beautiful. I'm, you know, friends with them on Facebook, and I just love it. And her and the preschool we went to, like, it was a combination of people. It wasn't just mum and dad doing our thing. It was people
We were surrounded
supporting
by
us.
much support.
Much support. There was a lot of people that, and there was a lot of people that didn't, you know, well, you should just accept him for what he is. I'm like, yeah, I don't accept him when he's banging his head against a pole at school because he doesn't know what to do. I'm just, you know, it's...
Yeah, I remember that story very well.
You know,
The classic no hat, no play rule at school. Forgot my hat or left it at home or whatever it may be. All my friends were out on the oval and I didn't know what to do, so I was stuck in the cola, as it was called, just
the undercover area.
Yeah, the undercover area, and
right.
walked over to a sort of like the hollow drain poles where like the rain comes in and then it collects it down to whatever. Which just went over there and bang, just hit my head over it.
Were you in pain at the time, or?
I think I was just sad and
Right.
didn't know.
I think, well, I remember because the idea was if you don't have your hat, you can't play. You can also go to the library. The librarian was away that day, so he went to the library, and then she wasn't there, so I don't know what to do next. Like, he couldn't comprehend, well, now what? So that was my backup plan. It's not there, so he didn't know what to do, so he just got so confused, so he just had against poles. Just that was him, you know. And so when people go, you should just accept your son for the way out, it's like, you actually don't have the right to say, it's fine to sit there and go, my son head bangs pole, and that it's not okay for me to worry about that. Like, it's, you know, I'd go and I'd be on canteen, I'd see him just like walking around the chairs, like, you know, the stools and the playground, he'd just be just circling them. I'm like, no, that's not okay. Like, I want more for him. We want more for him than this. So that was some of the things that, you know, when I think back, I'm like, wow, I forget some of these things. I forget, you know, standing in the canteen crying, going, is this it? Like, is this it? Just walk. And so his friends are playing there and he's just circling the chairs while they're playing. It's like, I was playing with friends, but that's not playing with them. That's playing beside them. Yeah. It's not even playing beside them. It's just confusion around chairs. So, there's probably many things that I sort of forget about after all these, you know, after the years of how...
like a book and just write down every story.
You should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. Guys, you have made my day. I have to say this.
So much.
That's the least you can do for everything you've done. I've been following you for years and years, so I see what you do, and yeah, it's the least you can do.
Thank you so much, and you're getting a lot of love on social media.
Oh,
as
really?
well.
Oh,
So, yeah, thanks so much. Would you like to sign the bus?
I would love
Absolutely.
to. I've signed it this morning with my story that I was on this morning, but yeah, you might.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's close this and close that.